There are various phases in aerobic and anaerobic respiration. It all starts with glucose. Glucose is a 6-carbon molecule. This glucose breaks into a 3-carbon molecule which is called pyruvate. Pyruvate is a 3-carbon molecule. This process does not require any oxygen. So this is an anaerobic process. Now this pyruvate has to further break down into simpler substances. So those substances can be either of the three. First thing is that this pyruvate can break up to give ethanol and carbon dioxide. In this process, there was no oxygen required. This was again an anaerobic process. Also, the second step is that this pyruvate in muscle cells of animals due to some stressful physical activity, or in the case of tapeworm which is living in intestines, this pyruvate can break up into lactic acid. So this process again takes place in the absence of oxygen. So all of these processes which are taking place in absence of oxygen are anaerobic, and these take place in the cytoplasm. However, we have one more pathway. This pyruvate, if there is sufficient supply of oxygen, pyruvate breaks up into carbon dioxide and water. This is when supply of oxygen is unlimited. So this is the aerobic part of respiration. So for this to happen, it should take place in the mitochondria. So this process takes place in the mitochondria. Mitochondria is also known as the powerhouse of the cell. However, all these other processes, glucose to pyruvate, it takes place in cytoplasm. Similarly, ethanol plus CO2 from pyruvate, this is again taking place in cytoplasm. This again, pyruvate to lactic acid, takes place in the cytoplasm. So, out of all of these processes, there is only one step, which is the breakdown of pyruvate into CO2 and water in excess of oxygen, which happens in mitochondria of the cell. Let's not forget to write the energies. So, this was 2 ATP. This is again 2 ATP. And here it is 19 times more. It's 38 ATP of energy. All of this part, which was anaerobic happening in cytoplasm, constitutes the phase of respiration which is known as glycolysis. Glycolysis consists of what steps? Glucose is changing to pyruvate, pyruvate is changing into ethanol plus CO2, or pyruvate is changing into lactic acid. All of this is glycolysis. There is second phase of respiration that takes place inside the mitochondria, and that is known as Krebs cycle. So the two phases of respiration are glycolysis and Krebs cycle. Glycolysis consists of the anaerobic part of respiration. This is the anaerobic part, and all of it takes place in the cytoplasm. Glucose to pyruvate, pyruvate to either ethanol or CO2, or lactic acid. Both are anaerobic. Now let's see the second phase, which is Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle consists of the aerobic part of respiration. So just this part where pyruvate in excess of oxygen, it breaks down into carbon dioxide and water. This process takes place in mitochondria. Glycolysis takes place in cytoplasm. Krebs cycle takes place in mitochondria. So these are the two phases of respiration.